Okay, so we have both the still and the video. That symbol means dissolve. It's going to dissolve. Okay, and it dissolves. Obviously, the photograph has no audio, so you don't hear audio. Okay, we looked at all the buttons. We look at this button, the settings. It starts giving us choices to make the video look nicer. If you do for Hope Channel, you don't want to use any of this, okay? Because Hope Channel wants a very clean look. Maybe if you do it for your own conference or whatever, you may want to change something. But there's different choices on how things look. Like we can decide we want it to be black and white. And now the footage is black and white. Okay? We can decide, no, not black and white. I want an extra amount of color. And with a vignette around it. Vignette's kind of this dark thing that's sticking in the picture. Actually, that looks pretty good. Actually, I kind of like that one. Because it matches the video well. So one advantage the phone has over the computer software is that you can do this effect with the computer, but it just takes more steps. But with the phone, you can just go to it and click whatever you want. There's duotone, which looks like a movie that was left out in the sun too long. There may be a program out there that allow you to do it, but the ones I've seen and searched through, you can't edit the audio. So whatever audio is on the track, that's the audio I have to live with. So if you're using your iPhone, you have to remember that, right? You can't do B-roll. You can't put another shot in there to cover and edit because it will have audio. You can't get, to my knowledge, you can't get the audio off. Okay, another thing you're going to want to do with the videos, if you're talking to somebody at the beginning of the story, you'll want the person's name to come in and the like. On the phone, you can do that. You don't have a lot of control, but you can do that as well. And one thing that I would really do if I was going to use a phone to edit, if you're out in the field, then you can't do this. But if you're in your office using the iPhone to edit, is to get a keyboard, a Bluetooth keyboard. So you have a regular keyboard. You'll still be using a phone, but typing and doing this stuff on a keyboard is a lot easier than the screen. Okay? And if you do it, even better if you do it on an iPad, which the program's pretty much the same, but an iPad, obviously, it's a lot easier to see what you're doing if you have one available. Okay, so if you're doing a story, you're editing a story, what's the first thing you do? You open the program up, what's the first thing you do? You load the videos, you import the videos that you want, correct? Okay. What do you do next? You load it into the timeline. You drag them down into the timeline. If you know the order of your video, then you save yourself some time by loading them one after another in the order that you're going to use them, so they'll end up all in the correct order on the timeline. Okay. How do you cut out the stuff that you don't need? Use the trim function, right? These definitions are important that you remember them, because when you go to YouTube or whatever, because you don't remember something from the class or you want to do something more than what you were taught here, YouTube is the place to go. It's a lot better than going to the manufacturer's lessons, because there are just people on YouTube that can explain things a lot better. So go to YouTube. Now, if you go to YouTube and you want to know how to trim, you need to know the word trim. Otherwise, you're never going to find it. do the doohickey thing where you have that and you pull it and then you cut the other thing and put it next to it. You're not going to find that on YouTube. You have to know the word trim. You have to know the word import. Video you probably already know. So how do you edit the audio separate from the video? The two will come in together. They're married together. How do you get them apart? By unlinking them. You need to remember that word, link. So when you look on YouTube, you can't remember how to do it. At least you look at your notes and remember the word link. There's one other, there's a couple other things. You can trim by sliding it across the way that I did it. That's the easiest way to understand it. But if you remember, I also showed it where you cut it. You have the little razor blade function, and you just go to that point and then you cut it. That's obviously called a cut for the razor blade. When you click on something because you want to use it, that's called selecting. Obviously, you get rid of the cut by deleting. If you have a piece of video here, another piece of video here, and you don't want the black between them, you can either drag one piece of video to the other, or you can do something called a ripple delete. If you delete, the video just goes away. If you ripple delete, you want to write that down, ripple, R-I-P-P-L-E, delete, it will automatically get rid of all the black. So you don't have to grab and shuffle anything. It just immediately brings the other video to the black, so there's no other piece, no black in between the two. I think what we'll do after lunch is we will shoot something real short story, maybe not even complete story, but just something, we'll shoot it and then we'll go through this again to show how it's put together. Okay? Okay, so steps to editing the video. You import the video, also called the footage. It's an old film term, but it's still used, the footage. You start a timeline, you drag it down into the timeline. You create the audio first, so that if you play it and listen to your edits, it sounds correct. So all the audio is correct. So it's like a radio program. After that, you look at it and you add video to it, video without audio. You add to it, like pictures, Ted Wilson is talking, maybe you want pictures of people watching him talk, maybe there's some edits in there you want to cover, show a picture of the stadium, or whatever. Okay, that's B-roll, also called cover footage. Remember what we talked about yesterday, see dog, say dog? If it's Ted Wilson talking, then you need to show something that has something to do with Ted Wilson, even if it's people in a stadium. In fact, that's a pretty good shot to use. You don't want to, at that point, show a car driving down the street, because it has nothing to do with Ted Wilson talking in a stadium. Maybe if he talks about something like the church has had a lot of baptisms, maybe if some previous story you did, you have footage from baptisms, that's something that you could show there. But what you talk about is what needs to be shown. That's the biggest problem in not very well done Adventist videos, is editing pictures that don't have anything to do with what's happening, just because they're trying to cover a bad edit. Okay, the transition, that's when you go from one piece of video to the other. The transition, you have the cut, which is what we were using before. It just instantly changes from one shot to the next. You have a dissolve. You remember seeing the dissolve? This picture slowly appears. It doesn't cut immediately. It slowly changes from one to the other. You have another one called a fade, which you probably know what that is. Fade comes up from black, or it goes down from black, or it just has black in the middle. And then one thing we didn't talk about, because you probably should not ever use it, is a wipe. And a wipe is when there's a change according to some sort of pattern, like a line goes through. You know, it's like you have this video and a line goes through. So as it changes along that little swipe that goes through. Does that make sense? There's a lot of them. They're pretty common in home videos, but in a Hope Channel video, I can't think of a reason to use one of those. Just either cut or dissolve or occasionally fade. If you remember in the Ukraine story, at the prison story, they had fades in there. Do you remember seeing those? Yeah. The video would play, it'd go to black, and then come out from black again. It's because they want to like end something and start something new. That's why they did a fade. But that's about the only reason you want to use it. And honestly, for most of your videos, at least for a little while, until you get really good at it, you probably just want to do cuts. It depends on your office. To be honest with you, it's better to use speakers, external speakers, because that's the way that people at home are going to hear it. If you wear headphones, I really don't use headphones when editing, because I will hear it differently than the person at home hears it. And I'll have all sorts of subtle things in the audio that I think are really nice, but then it plays on the air through a TV who has the speaker on that TV is this big around. You can't hear all the stuff I spent all that time trying to put into it. So I just listen to it on two regular computer speakers. To be honest, you want the speakers to be pretty good, but it's okay if they're not really high end, because the people, when they listen to it, they're not going to be listening to a high end speaker either. Okay. It's really nice to put all the extra stuff in it and all the extra effort, but if the viewer can't see it, you're wasting your time. By the way, in TV, there's two types of problems. One problem, the viewer can see a bad edit, or they can hear bad audio. Another one, the viewer can't see, and that is your video card and your computer's not working well. Which one's more important? The one the viewer can see. So it's more important to have a story that can be played and people can watch it than to not have a story because you didn't want to edit because your video card's not working well. You know, on some computers, I don't know why it is, that if you waited until all the computer was working all the time, you would never do anything on it. Like there's always something acting up. Yes, if you're using a computer, it's better that your video is on an external drive. Otherwise, it's hard on the computer to play the video, edit the video, show all the transitions, at the same time it's trying to read the program code. It tells it how to do a dissolve. It wants to read that and do the dissolve at the same time. It's just, most computers can do it, but it's just going to go better, faster, and smoother if they're separate from each other. Because the computer is able to read from a hard drive, two different hard drives, you know, at the same time. Just can't read from one hard drive at the same, two things at the same time. Okay. Okay, some of you have an iPhone. This is how it works on an iPhone. With an Android, it's going to be similar. Like I said, all editing programs are similar. The keystrokes change, but the programs themselves and how they work are similar. So this is a demonstration with iMovie, and Android's going to have, you know, something else. And if you don't like iMovie or whatever Android has, you can go into the store and get something else. But this is what an iPhone comes with the day you buy it. So this is already loaded into the machine. This piece of video you can see is from Gain in Korea. It's simplified because it's a phone and not a computer. But this is obviously the video that you're going to watch. Like we had the video before with the big screen, with the bigger thing. Actually, it's called the program monitor. This is, what do you think this is called? Is the timeline. This is how you're going to add files. What's that? The play button. Okay? See, that's settings. That's what? Go back or undo. That's help. And that's, obviously, that's when you're done. So we have this is a piece of video from Gain. All right, it was shot with the phone. I'm going to hit the plus button because we have to import a file just like we did before. Go find some video. And we'll add this piece of video. Okay, this is the little town nearby. So now the video is here, and here's the Gain video. Okay, because it's simplified, because it's on a phone, in iMovie, we're not going to see the video one on top of the other. It's going to be one, and then the next one, and then the next one. Okay, see, I've clicked on the end of the video. You see the big yellow bar? Yeah, that's trimming. I don't want to take my finger off of it, but it's a little yellow bar, so I'm trimming it, and I want it to end at this little red building right there. Maybe this big red building be easy to see. Come back. Okay, from there, I want it to go to the Gain footage. And we'll do dissolve. So now when I play it, okay, does that look very similar to what we were doing before? It is very similar, only it's simplified because it's hard on the screen to do it. Actually, you know, a modern phone is like a pretty good computer 5 years ago, but it does have the ability to do it, but it's simplified because it's on a phone screen. So there is that. Now, when you edit on the iPhone, one thing that's going to be a function you probably won't have is the ability to play video without the audio, to take the audio off of it. So whatever you shoot with the phone, you have to think about the audio because you won't be able to take it off. On some programs you might, but just beware you might not be able to take it off. So when you put it together, you're not going to be like layers one on top of the other. It's going to be this piece of video, that piece of video, that piece of video, you know, with the audio that whatever audio was on that video. Okay, is that clear? Okay. So let's take like a 10-minute break. So we come back and then we'll talk about what we're going to do next.
If you effect the change, you have to see it before the effect. The change.
usually on the iPhone, or this works on the iPad too. Usually on the iPhone, the iPad, no, because it automatically saves it when you do it. Otherwise, yeah, of course, then you do have to, like any computer program. All right, who's ever heard of the term copyright? In your area, in your region, the area of your responsibility? What were the steps of a changed life story? The difference between a changed life story and a documentary is this. Changed life story can be a type of documentary, but a documentary, by definition, has a point of view. It's going to say something specific. It's not like a news story. Present one side, present the other side, let the viewer decide what the correct, whatever their opinion's going to be. In this case, we're going to give them an opinion. So in a sense, Changed Life Story is a type of documentary because at the end we have a certain point of view, and that's going to be that God can transform people's life. Also, documentaries tend to be a lot longer than news stories. If you're going to air anything on Hope Channel that's what's called long form, that's not a part of another show, then it has to have a specific time. It has to be 28:30 or 58:30. Okay? Is it back on? Yeah. If you do for Hope Channel, unless Nee over to Hope Channel Ghana tells you otherwise, if you're doing like a documentary like that, that's going to air by itself, not part of another show, it's going to air as a complete show. It has to be 28 minutes and 30 seconds long, exactly, not 1 second less or 1 second more. Or it has to be 58:30 if it's a 1 hour show. So in TV, 28:30 equals 30 minutes and 58:30 equals an hour. Because, there's going to be things in between the two shows, so it has to be a little bit shorter. If it's part of another program, then you would have to ask the producer how long does the story need to be. Okay? If you turn in a story that's the wrong length, one of three things will happen. It'll be rejected, it will be sent back to you to be fixed, or they'll fix it. And what you don't want really is somebody else fixing it, because they don't know the story the way you do, and they may cut out the best parts. Okay, let's go on. Now, yes. That's the definition I have. In the movie industry, if you say a feature, then you mean a long-form movie that's an hour 30 usually or longer. That's a feature film. And that has a much longer length because its purpose is different. It's not made to run on TV. It's made to run in a theater, and people, when they buy a ticket to a movie, they want it to be at least an hour and a half long. Otherwise, they think they didn't get enough for their money. Okay, let's talk about editing for video. To edit for video, obviously you need some sort of computer device because we don't edit on tape anymore. So we're going to edit in a computer, and these are your choices. There are many choices, actually, maybe another 4 or 5 choices, but these are the main choices. One, it's a program called Premiere Pro. Who's familiar with Premiere Pro, those that have edited? It's made by Adobe. It's the most popular editing program in the world. It's Premiere Pro. You have Final Cut Pro. That's made by Apple. Apple used to be the most popular, but now it's nowhere. They changed the program. A lot of people didn't like it, so a lot of people moved away from Final Cut. You have DaVinci, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, which is a fully featured from a company called Blackmagic. And you have your phone that you can edit with. Obviously, between editing on a computer and your phone, the computer is vastly better, but we'll also talk about how to edit on the phone. Okay? A couple of things here. Final Cut Pro only works on an Apple computer. My suggestion is that you don't get an Apple computer to edit with. And this is the reason why. The advantage of Apple is that it comes fully complete. When you buy the item, it'll run the software, without any additions. The disadvantage is, in this part of the world, Apple service is extremely difficult to get. It's even hard to get it in the US to get Apple service, but at least we can run to an Apple store and get service done. But the advantage that a PC has, whether it's a laptop or a desktop, the advantage that has is that if something breaks, you can usually get it fixed just about anywhere, especially if it's a desktop. Well, you get it fixed, but you can build the machine and have a machine twice as fast as an Apple for half the cost. I use an Apple because a lot of the Hope channels use an Apple in other places of the world, so I just stay with they're using. But this computer costs twice as much as a PC that does the same thing. Okay, that's my suggestion. In the U.S., if you had the money, do whatever. But I'm very concerned outside of the U.S. and outside of Western Europe, what kind of service you get on the Apple. We have a lot of Apples around Hope Channel, laptops that died prematurely that can't get fixed because they can't get them back to the U.S. to get them fixed. Okay, so the best choice for editing is a desktop because you can do twice as much with one half the price. And then if something blows up in the computer, you can take that part out, or you can send the computer to your local computer expert and he can fix it and send it back. With an Apple, you can't. If I open this case, Apple will disavow the computer. They'll never allow it to be fixed if the case is opened by me and not them. Okay, so these two will run on a PC. Okay, this one costs $50 a month, at least in the US. It's probably the same here. It costs $50 a month. Okay, it's a subscription service. This one is free. DaVinci is free. So I'm going to show you Premiere Pro and I'm going to show you DaVinci. I personally don't have Final Cut Pro because I'm one of those that don't like it, so I don't have it on my machine. Okay, so we're going to look at Premiere Pro and we're going to look at DaVinci. I'll show you Premiere Pro because it's the most popular editing software. All editing programs work pretty much the same. Some may have a couple more features than another, and sometimes the keystroke changes. Like for Final Cut Pro, you hit the letter A to cut, A to select. In Premiere Pro, you hit V to select. But they work the same way. Sometimes if you go from one to another, you just have to learn the different keystrokes. Okay, it's asking me how much I like the program. Can you see it? Because it's kind of black on black. It's clearly visible on my computer. Let me see if I can change that quickly. Well, anyways, it's possible to change it. Well, let me just show you a couple of things. You can move these boxes around, but this is how it starts. This is where your files are that you want to edit. These are things you want to do to the files. This is called the timeline. This is what you're editing on. Timeline means a length of time, so that you are editing from the beginning thing, the second thing, the third thing that shows down here. This is the monitor, the display that shows you the video. And then this is an extra for certain effects you may be doing. Let me get out of that. Let me go to DaVinci, now that you've seen that one, so you can tell people you've seen it. And let me go to DaVinci, which I think is going to display better. DaVinci does pretty much everything Final Cut Pro does and does pretty much everything that Premiere Pro does, except that it's free. DaVinci makes cameras, among other things. That's why they have the free software. So they want you to buy their camera over all the others. You see the similarities? They're all pretty much the same. You can change the boxes where you put things, but when it comes up, this is where the media goes. This is things you're doing to it. This is called the output monitor, showing you what you're editing. This is the timeline. So it's very similar. Some people say that one editing program is vastly better than the others. You know, right now it's not true because they're all pretty much the same. With a modern computer, there's not a lot of differences between them. Let me show you how you put video in. You're going to want to write a lot of notes on this. Okay, I'm going to load the Ukraine video that we just saw. Okay, when we do video, we don't see it in this box till we put it on the timeline, right? You want to pretty much write down these steps, A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Because if you don't understand these now, it's going to be hard to figure it out later. I'm going to give you enough information so that after this, you should be able to edit something simple. If not, you can at least go to YouTube and watch some videos and learn some things in detail. But if you don't know this basic flow or these terms, then you're not going to be able to understand what YouTube's talking about. Or if you want to do something and don't remember how, you can go to YouTube and find an instruction on how to do it. But if you don't know the terms, you're not going to know how to look for or search for what you need to know. All right, up here is the video that I just imported. Just like PC and Mac, you go through the file and you just import the video, just like you would a word processor or anything else. So the video is in there. This is the Ukraine video, and this is the timeline. This is this piece. This was created when I dragged that and dropped it into here. So now there's a timeline. Right now they're the same thing, but in a minute they won't be the same thing. So I come to the timeline. Okay, that's the video we just saw. It's stammering because right now the computer's having a hard time keeping up with the video because we haven't done something to it called rendering. So I'm going to call up another piece of video. Okay, now the other piece is here. It's showing black because the video starts in black. So I'm going to drag that. You watch. I'm going to drag that onto the timeline. Well, let's try it again. Okay, now I have two pieces of video. This is the original one. This is the second one. It orders the video in priority. So this is the first one that's going to be. This one's on top of that one. So if you think of this like a photograph, this photograph is laying on top of this photograph. So when you play it, you can see this is the timeline marker going along, and it's about to go to the other video. Okay, the video has changed because that's on top. You can also hear, maybe you can hear it here, that both audio tracks are playing. Okay, is that clear? Okay, how do you get video into your project? Yeah, you open it up, you go through File, and up here at the top or something, it's going to say Import, just like it does on any other computer program, like a Word document file or anything else. It's going to allow you to import your video, and that's what we did. I used Command-I because that's a shortcut, but you can do it that way. It works just as well. So if I were to do something like this, what's just happened on the timeline? You know that I just want to say this, that in order to get the certificate, you're going to have to edit something. So you're going to have to know at least to the level which I just got. So if I were, phoning or texting at the moment, I would be concerned. Okay, what I've done is I've dragged this up to here, and now when you play it, when it gets to the second video, what's it going to do?
The sound will come.
Yeah, and you won't see it because this is on top of it, like a book on top of another book or a photo on top of another photo. This is the one that's on top. Even though that one starts here, you won't see it. Here's the marker going across. Okay? You didn't see it because it's on the bottom. Okay, now I'm going to do something called trimming. I've laid the video in. Hopefully I've got them in some sort of order. And I'm going to trim the video. See the top piece of video going back and forth? Can you see that? You notice how it's changing the pictures? So those pictures that are being shown? I'm going to trim it to that. Which now, instead of it starting with the picture in the prison, it's now going to start with her. Okay? Easy enough? If you understand perfectly, you can talk or go to lunch. Yes. I can't hear anything.
We are not getting anything.
Okay.
It's like you are watching. So if there's any other way that you can help us to understand better, I'm just watching it.
Okay. Then it's good. Tell me if you don't understand, because I have the answers. Okay.
Can we come to your computer? We are maybe two, so that we can see it from that point. But I think here we can get it. If two, we can come
Okay.
and then do this. That one.
Yeah, we'll do that. Let's do that. We'll do it in groups. let me back up a little bit to get to the point where we're at right now. When you, as close as you want to get, as close as you want to get. I'm even having problems with the monitor seeing it from here. I mean, it looks really nice on my computer, but on the monitor it's pretty small. If you want to get closer, then get closer. Okay, when you edit, when you're writing a story on your computer and you're editing your story, it means you're adding, changing, or taking things away. All right, that's what edit means. You're adding something, you're changing something, you're taking something away. So if you write an article and you don't like a certain sentence, you can delete it. Or you can change it so that one sentence is next to a different sentence. It's the same thing that we're doing with the video, only because it's visual, we're going to do it in a different way. Actually, it's simpler than the way you would edit with a word processor. Okay? So what we've done is we have 2 stories, 2 videos loaded. We've told the program to go get these 2 videos. You can see the little things. I think hopefully we can see Tatiana is right here. That's the Ukraine story we saw. And this is someone, I think her name's Hallel, if I recall correctly. That's another story we didn't look at. But those are the 2 pieces of video. Okay. So in my example, what we're going to do is we're going to edit the 2 videos. Okay? I can edit one video and make it shorter or longer or whatever. In this case, I'm just going to show 2 videos because then it's going to be easier to see where the edits are. Okay? Yes, sir.
Why would you want to complicate life for yourself? Why don't you just do one video after you're done and go to the next one?
Because it's going to be easier to see. One, when you edit, you're going to have a lot of videos. Okay? And it's also when I make the edits and stuff, you can see it's a different story. You can see where the edit is. It's going to be very clear. Okay? When you edit your own story, what you're going to do is all the video that you shot, the first thing you're going to do is just import it, everything you shot. And it's just going to be a list of things right here. Okay? To import it, for example, when you're using word processor, if you want to load something, you go up under File, and you go look for it through File. Like it's File, or you can hit Control-O to go look. That's the shortcut. Otherwise, you go up to File, and you load what you want. In a word processor, you only load one thing at a time, but we're going to load multiple things at one time. So we go here, and there's an import file, and we're going to hit import file. Okay, just like a word processor, it's gone to where we're going to look for a file. Okay, is it clear? It went to look for, it doesn't know what we want, it's giving us choices. So if this was like your word processor, this would be like letter to your mother, letter to your boss, or whatever you want that you want to open so you can see the words and you can edit it. In this case, it's just shown us the last place we were, and there's videos in there. So I'm going to load one of these that we haven't loaded already. Load that one, just like we're using Microsoft Word. Hit load, and now it's right here. Is it clear? It's black right now because the video starts in black, so it shows you the beginning of it.
And if it's a still image, it will come the same place.
If it's a still image, it'll look exactly the same. Okay? To show there is a video here, I'm just sort of clicked on it and it shows the video. This is, if you want to see something here, it'll show up there. But most of your life is down here. You're doing things here and it shows up over there. As you get really advanced and know what you're doing, you can change all of these windows and move them whatever position you want them to be in. But otherwise, this is, when you open the program, it's going to look like this. Okay? So this is, what we care about is over here, and that's down here. And this is being able to look at these videos without putting them down here. Okay? As it goes across, this is kind of like our eyeball going across, like we're looking down on it, and this is what we're going to see when we look down. Right now, we're only going to see this, because this is completely on top of that one. So even though it's there, we won't see it. Clear as mud? Okay. Fortunately, because I want to change things, I can, that's called trimming. I'll show you just a second how to do it, but let me just show you what's happened. I've not moved this video. I've just told it start here instead of starting here. Okay, you see it no longer exists here. And because my eyeball is looking at it from the top, as soon as I get to this point, we won't see the remote anymore. We're going to see the jail. So I'll play it.
It's part of my search for truth.
Is that clear? Okay. Can you see this little marker right here? Right. So watch that little marker. See, it's the cursor. When I put it over the video, it changes to that marker. Okay? This is the marker that DaVinci shows, and it's showing that side and that side, showing both. So if I drag that, you can see it's what it's doing, it's untrimming. It's just moving the whole thing back to where it was before. Because it's moving, we're saying it's go both sides. Right now I'm going to show, you see that's only one half of it? Now you notice I'm trimming it. I'm changing where it starts, okay? Because it says only change that one side. Is that clear? So now we look at it on top. That's the part where it changes. Is it clear? Okay. So when you put your video together, it's highly unlikely that your clip's going to be where you want to start. Usually somewhere inside of something you recorded. So what you want to do, load it up what I just did, and you trim it. You come along here till you find the part that you like. Okay? You can either use the numbers. You see what's displaying numbers right next to the cursor, the trim cursor. If you know exactly how long, and usually you don't. If you have a producer, the producer will tell you how long, and will give you those numbers, but usually don't have, so you just go through here. Like, well, I have a picture of this, and I remember I had a picture of of the camera taking the video, and there it is. Okay, so I can just change the start. There's the black, and now the camera is showing the video. Now when I play it, it goes to the camera showing the video. When you do a story, you actually do it differently the way you think you do it. When you do a story, what you want to do is edit the audio first. So you have all of your audio, and you create a timeline with the audio, as if it were like a radio program. So you have all your audio. If it's just a voice, then you just have the audio. Usually it's going to be a person saying something. So you have the person saying something, but what you do is you put it all together. So if you were to close your eyes and play it, you have the story the way you want it to sound. People saying the right thing, saying it in the right places. Okay? What you do second is then go back and watch it, and you look at the places like where you need to add picture of, you have Ted Wilson talking, but you want a picture of the stage when he's talking, or you have people listening to him talking, you want to show people listening. That's called B-roll. You put the B-roll in after you have the perfect audio. Is that clear? You can't put the pictures in until you know what the audio is. Yes, sir. See, I'm back to that marker again at the top. When I move that across, do you see at the bottom that green line that's moving with it? Files, when you record them, have pictures and they have sound. This is the sound. I don't know if you can see it, but it says audio. It says video. When I move that back and forth, you can see I'm also trimming the audio that's on the file. It's called rendering. Once you mash everything together, then you can't change it. Okay? I mean, you can, because we're changing it but this is what's happened here. Because that was a file that's already been rendered, or everything's mashed together. When I load it, I don't get all the video they used to make the story. I'm just getting one line, because it's all been made into one. Okay, so here's the video, and here's the audio. They all use this term. All the editing programs I use this term. And this one thing you're going to have to write down. When you go down and look at what's called the attributes. You know, in Word, if you want to see the attributes, you command click, and it'll give you choices. Remember, you'll do things like it'll show you thesaurus, it'll tell you if it's spelled right, all those things. When you select a word and command click on it, it gives you all these options of what to do with the word. The same thing here. We command click on it. In this case, we've clicked on the audio. We have all these choices of different things. Forget all of this. Right now, we're just looking at link clips. So what's a link? A link is a piece of chain that holds the next piece of chain that keeps everything together. You can see it has a check mark. Everything's chained together. Okay, so we're going to unchain it. We're going to separate it. So it's okay, so I've clicked on it, and now it's not selected. There's no check mark. Now, when I go back to this cursor that's now sitting on the audio, that's how I move it, but the picture doesn't move because the two are no longer connected to each other. Is that clear? Okay. So when you do your audio, that's how you're going to do it. You're going to put things in, you're going to trim it to make it sound right, and then later you go back and look at the video. One word of warning: when the items are not linked, if you move the video, it's not linked to the audio anymore. So you get this.
My husband transported
I don't know if you can tell because there's two audio tracks playing right now, but if you listen to it, she is not lip synced anymore because we moved her audio. So when she's saying something, or when something's being said, it doesn't look like she's saying it anymore because her mouth is saying something else. So because the connection of these two is lost, I can move this around independently of that. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this audio. I'm just going to command click on it, unlink it. This is complicated, and be honest with you, we could spend. If you wanted to know everything about how to edit on the software, we'd be here easily for a month. I'm going to try and get you to the point that you understand enough about it, that you'll be able to try this, and you'll understand at least enough that you can if you want to do more, you can go to YouTube and watch the videos. Remember, we talked about the timeline? Say this is just a video. This is a file that you made. Here's the video. And we're down here in green was the audio. And all the way through this, there's all this talking. It's Ted Wilson saying everything about how great the church is and how good God is and all that. It's him talking all the way through it. But you don't want everything. It's like, this maybe is an introduction. Hello, this is Ted Wilson. And whatever. Well, you don't want that. It goes, God is good right here. And say, well, I do want that. So I want to cut this. I want to cut and get rid of this. And then he goes here and says, my office has nice carpet. And it's like, no, you don't want that. So you're going to cut that and take this piece out. Okay? So let's do that on this video. Let me remove one of the videos so it's easier to see what we're doing with the audio. And it's coming across. I'm looking for Tatiana's audio. Well, when you have audio on a video, it's called a soundbite. I don't exactly remember where that term came from, but it's a little bite of sound, even though it has video on it. Okay, I'm going to go back and forth. I can play this, or just like Word, I can hit the cursor button and go back one letter at a time. In this case, I'm going to hit the cursor button and go backwards until I find the very beginning. It's a little farther back than I thought it was. Okay, there's the point I want to make the edit. I listen to it, and that's the part I want. Okay, I've listened to it, I've stopped it, and that's the part that I want. So what I'm going to do, in this case, I'm going to go back to the beginning. Use the cursor that's only one side. And drag it right back to that line. Okay, now when I start the video, okay, see it just started with her. There's nothing before that. So I'm going to go back to the end of what she's saying, or at least to the next edit point, which is right there. Okay, I'm going to use the cursor, and it's right there. And I'm going to then cut it. But there's multiple ways to do the same thing. I can either go to the back of the clip then and then bring it all the way to this point, or I'm going to do trim end. I had trim beginning, and now I have trim end. And I can save some time. I can select that. I'm going to quickly move this to Premiere Pro that I'm more familiar with, and also DaVinci's acting up. So I'm not sure why, and don't have time in the class to sort it out. But Premiere Pro should work just fine, because that's the one I normally use. It's best, by the way, to edit off of a hard drive, to put your stuff on a hard drive and then edit from the hard drive, not directly from the computer. The reason is if you direct directly from the computer, is that it needs to read the video file and read the program file, the program instructions at the same time, or at least it doesn't do it at the same time. It just does it very rapidly back and forth. That is kind of hard on the machine and also slows down your editing. If you have a separate drive, then the computer can read from the drive and read the instruction files simultaneously. So there's no quick back and forth or any stammering that takes place because the computer is having difficulty keeping up. One advantage we had over DaVinci is that DaVinci didn't have to convert the files, and you can see here that Premiere Pro is converting the files, which makes DaVinci the better program. How many of you have a laptop that you could edit on later, or desktop or something? A computer that you can edit with. How many are going to have to edit on the phone? We're going to have to edit only on the phone. Okay. The phone doesn't do as much, but we're going to notice that the steps are the same. Okay, it's where we're at before. We were trimming to her soundbite.
My husband chanced upon the hook channel.
Okay, I can come to the end of the soundbite. Okay, that's the end of the part that I want to use. And I can either trim it, or in this case, if you look down at the bottom, I don't know how well you can see that, but there's a little razor blade. And I'm going to cut it there. And now it plays down to the end. And then she cuts out. Is that clear at all? Maybe there's two ways. One way is you can just drag it all the way to the end. The other way is you can just cut it. Just a matter which button pushes you do and what your preference is. How many are 80 to 90% with it at this point? Is it like just not getting it?
The question is, let's say there is a part of the video and the audio that, let's say from 1 to 100 is the complete video and the audio. But then you want to trim from, let's say from 1 to 5. You don't want it. But from 5 to, let's say, 15, it's something you need. So you trim that part off. Then from 15 to, let's say, 20, there's something that you don't like. But from 20 to 25, it's something you like. So in this instance, it seems like we've cut. How do you?
Okay, let me show you this, and that's normally the way that you would do it. But I was just showing one example of in and out. Okay, so if you have, if Tatiana were Ted Wilson, you've got this part that is the end of what Ted Wilson says that you're interested in. I'm going to go back to that little razor blade. I'm going to cut right there, and I'm going to listen to more of it. Okay, so I'm going to go through and listen to more of his speech. It's like, oh yeah, I want this piece right here. So I'm going to use the razor blade again. I'm going to cut it, but I'm not deleting. I'm not deleting the entire file. I'm only going to delete the parts that I don't want. So I know this part, I don't want this part. Okay? And then I can drag this part against that part. And now when Ted Wilson speaks, okay, it's gone to the other part of his speech. All right, then what you would do is you would just keep marking it. That's, I want that, but I don't want this. I want that, I don't want this. So you're just marking it as you go through. So then you'll come back later and remove the pieces you don't like. All right? And then drag them back to where they were. Or where they need to be, rather. One against the other.
So it's the same for the DaVinci. DaVinci also has that same function.
And DaVinci, yeah. Everything I'm showing you is the same in DaVinci. Just DaVinci was having issues, and I don't want to have issues for the training. So if I use DaVinci all the time, I'm sure we wouldn't be having the issues because they'd be sorted. But right now I use Premiere Pro, so that's what we're getting. Let me erase the Fiji video. Okay. Okay. What we're going to do when we get the file, for example, Ted Wilson's speech, so we'll edit all the parts we don't want and we delete them, and then we're going to put probably, depends on the story, but we probably put some of those parts back together. I mean, we will take the parts that we don't want, remove them, but just end up with one continuous play of all the things he's going to say that we want. Okay, we've removed what he doesn't want, we don't want, and now we only have the parts he does want. All right, we've moved them up next to each other. And we're going to say that this is what we want. So it's going to play through here. And we're going to say, okay, it sounds okay. That's exactly what I want. But I don't like the video. Because you watch the video. It does that, and it goes to that. Boy, that looks ugly. I don't want to see that. So I'm going to go to the B-roll. Select something I'm going to cover it with. I've decided that it would be great to have pictures of Ted Wilson looking at his Bible right there. So I found a little piece of video here where Ted Wilson's looking at his Bible, and I'm going to put it where that ugly piece is, which is right here that we just played. And I'm going to pull it over. Okay, but to complicate it just slightly, I don't want the sound of him reading the Bible. I just want the video. Right here, so that looks like an audio waveform, and that looks like a piece of film. I'm going to click on the piece of film. You notice when I come down to the timeline, there's no audio. See at the bottom? Nothing. But if I drag the one that looks like a little audio symbol, you can notice there's audio down at the bottom, but there's no video. You see it? Or not see it in this case? Okay. I just want the video. So I'm going to drag it down here. And I'm going to cover that ugly looking piece of video with that. So now let's play it. Okay. So I have that little piece of video in there. It still doesn't look good. Doesn't look good because the other person pops up right there. So I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to go to where it appears again. I'm going to cut that. I'm going to cut this piece out just like what we showed before. We're going to bring them together. Now they're going to play one against the other. That one plays. That one plays. Without the woman in between. Is this clear? Yeah. We're just removing the parts we don't want to see. Okay? It's important that you understand kind of the basic thing of what we're doing. And just get an idea of how editing is done. All right. One other thing I want to show is this is the video we just edited. And I don't want it, do you know the difference between a cut and a dissolve? What we just did there were cuts. It changes one piece of video instantly to the other piece of video. There's something called a dissolve that will dissolve the two pieces of video. Okay, have you watched the video now? if you watch the two pieces before it just cut from her to the Bible, now it's going to do something different. You see that? That was a dissolve. Okay? So in your stories, at least from the beginning, you have your choice to cut or to dissolve. My suggestion is always cut, but you have that transition as well. Okay, both of these programs, Premiere Pro and DaVinci, they've edited movies, long form, very high-end, expensive movies on these programs, so they do a tremendous amount of stuff. We're looking at the extreme basics. Okay, so when you get in and you look at these things that are available, you see there's a whole lot of stuff here. Right now, it doesn't matter to us. The other stuff outside of what I've shown. Okay? Don't try and learn everything at the beginning. And a lot of that stuff you would never, ever use. You know, I edit a fair amount of video, and that's what I've just showed you is 95% of it. How many of you feel like this makes the camera instruction look really simple? How many of you just totally lost? How many of you felt that if you shot some video right now, you could at least get an idea of what you would do with it when you came back?